Assalamualaikum everybody. Today, inshallah, we're going to be going over the last of the meme, sakin, and tanween rules. So far, we learned idgham, and there were two types. There was with ghunna and without ghunna. Then we learned iqlab, and we learned ikhfa yesterday. So today, we're going to be going over idhar, which is the final and simplest rule of the bunch. So like the rest, you have idhar when there is a nun sukun or a tanween before a specific letter. And in this case, what you do is you pronounce both of them clearly. Um, and you make sure that it's clear. So you don't want to pronounce it in a way that, you just gloss over the nun very quickly. You want to make sure that people know you're purposefully pronouncing the nun sound clearly before you move on and recite the rest. Um, And as for the letters of idhar, so what helps remember these letters is that they are the letters that come from your throat. So I mentioned that there's this a subset of recitation, of the science of recitation, I guess you call it makharij al-huruf. So the letters, the points of articulation. So that's where the sound of these letters comes from. In this case, all of the six letters that are involved in idhar, they come from the throat. So you have ghain and kha, both of which come from the top of your throat. Then ain and ha, which as you can see here, come from kind of the middle of your throat. And then you have ha and hamza, which come all the way from the bottom of your throat. Um, and inshallah, when you learn some more recitation, you'll also learn to start thinking about letters in these terms, so that you can think of where the sound for these letters comes from. So long story short, the letters for idhar are ghain, kha, ain, ha, hamza, and alif. And I have a couple of cheats for you because um, because we're going through everything so quickly. My point, the whole goal is to help you guys recite better and more easily, even if you're not going to understand every single rule of tajweed and be able to implement it perfectly every time. Um, so the Usman Taha script of the Quran, the one that we've mostly been following, which has the same page numbers that we've been going through, and it's written in a very specific way. That script has kind of tried to make these rules not very easy, but a little bit easier for you. Um, so here we have a case of idgham with ghunna, and here, I didn't put the word that comes after it, but there's a throat letter after this. Um, so there's a difference, right? Because you have this the matain here, which has two wows right next to each other, and then you have this the matain, which has a wow, and then it just has like this, uh, almost like a parentheses right on top of it. So this is one way that the Quran differentiates, or the text differentiates between idhar and all the other rules. So if you have the two dhammas next to each other in the dhammatain, you know that there's going to be one of the other three rules. So something happens to the nun, whether it's going to be ikhfa, iqla, not iqla, whether it's going to be ikhfa, idgham, yeah, whether it's ikhfa or idgham, you know that something happens here. So in this case, it's waziratun wizra. But over here, this means that it's going to be idhar. So you pronounce the nun sound clearly. So mathqalatun, and then you continue. And over here, you see that you have the kasratain very nice and orderly, right? They're right on top of the two kasras are right on top of each other. But over here, bimusmi'in man, these two kasras are kind of diagonally placed on top of each other. So that's because this, you can tell if you see it like if the kasratain you see like this, you know it's not idhar. But if they're neat on top of each other, it is idhar. So you will pronounce it, this one with idhar because you have a hamza afterwards. So it's min ummatin illa. min ummatin illa, right? So you pronounce the nun sound clearly. But over here you don't because this one is idgham. So bimusmi'im man. And it's the same thing with the fathatain. So over here you have a fathatain where the two fathas are kind of staggered. And after that is a fa, which is a letter of ikhfa. So it's ma'an fa'akhrajna. So you make sure to pronounce this with ikhfa. You have the same thing here. Min bihi thamaratim mukhtalifa. So it's because there's an idgham here, right? Nun followed by mim. But then you have a fathatain followed by a hamza, which is a throat letter, which means we have idhar. So they put the two fathas on top of each other in a very nice, neat way. So mukhtalifan alwanuha. You pronounce the nun nice and clearly. All right. And for practice, let me see the participants. Would anybody like to pronounce this phrase for us? Sister Layla, please go ahead. You're on mute, sister. So this is another one of my my trick questions because this one is ikhfa. Jim is a letter, is one of the ikhfa letters. So and it's not really from the throat. So Jim comes from kind of the top part of the mouth. So you would pronounce this one la in ja'ahum. Can you try that, sister? La in ja'ahum. Ahsant, very good. Ikhfa is definitely one of the most complicated rules to pronounce correctly, but you did a very good job. Thank you. And the next one. Would anybody like to recite this phrase? Muhammad Ibrahim, please go ahead. So that's good because you pronounced the nun properly, but you held it a little bit too long. So try to, pronounce, you can put a little bit of punch on it, but not too much. You don't want it to sound like you're doing more than one count of the nun. Can you try it one more time? Good. Say that again when I'm not talking over you. Ahsant. Very good. And Musa, can you recite this one for us? One more time. Your connection's still a little bit funny.
In ibadina.
Oh, perfect. Much better. That fixed it. And very good emphasis on that nun there. And we have one last one if anybody would like to recite this one. Anybody?
Okay, you can do it, Sakina.
Muhammad?
Rusulan Oli.
Good. Yeah, perfect. Yeah, good job emphasizing that nun there. And not holding it too long this time. Very good. Ahsant. So with that, we will start with recitation of Surat al-Safat. Brother Muhammad Ibrahim, can you please get us started?
أعوذ بالله من الشيطان الرجيم بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم والصافات صفا فالزاجرات زجرا فالتاليات ذكرا إنا إلى حكم لواحد رب السماوات والأرض وما بينهما ورب مشارق إنا زينا السماء الدنيا بزينة الكواكب.
So in this case, this bizinatin, since there's a sukun on that lam, I don't actually know what this rule is called, but you would put another kasra after that nun sound on the kasratain. So you would pronounce this bizinatinil kawakib, because it's almost impossible to just to mesh that nun, the nun sound into the lam.
Okay. رب السماوات والأرض وما بينهما ورب المشارق إنا زينا السماء الدنيا بزينة الكواكب.
Good.
وحفظا من كل شيطان مريض.
Ahsant. Very good, Muhammad. Thank you. And Ali?
دحورا إلا من فأتبعه شهاب ثاقب فاستفتهم أهم أشد خلقا أم من خلقنا إنا خلقناهم من طين لازب.
Ahsant. Very good, Ali. Thank you. And Brother Hamad, please go ahead.
Which ayat?
We are on ayah 12 now.
بل عجبت ويسخرون وإذا ذكروا لا يذكرون وإذا رأوا آية يستسخرون وقالوا إن هذا إلا سحر مبين أإذا متنا وكنا ترابا وعظاما أإنا لمبعوثون أوآباؤنا الأولون.
Ahsant. Very good. Thank you. And Sister Hania.
قل نعم وأنتم داخرون فإنما هي زجرة واحدة فإذا هم ينظرون وقالوا يا ويلنا هذا يوم الدين هذا يوم الفصل الذي كنتم به تكذبون
الذين ظلموا وأزواجهم وما كانوا يعبدون.
Ahsant. Very good, Sister Hania. Thank you so much. And Sister Layla, please go ahead.
أعوذ بالله من الشيطان الرجيم بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم من دعاء الله فهدوا وهم إلى صراط الجحيم وخيفوهم إنهم مسؤولون ما لكم لا تناثرون بل هم اليوم مستسلمون وأقبل بعضهم على بعض يتساءلون قالوا إنكم كنتم تعدوننا عن اليمين قالوا بل لم تكونوا مؤمنين.
Ahsant. Very good. Thank you, Sister Layla. And Muhammad Hussein.
أعوذ بالله من الشيطان الرجيم وما كان لنا عليكم من سلطان بل كنتم قوما طاغين فحق علينا قول ربنا إنا لذائقون فأغويناكم إنا كنا غاوين فإنهم يومئذ في العذاب مشتركون إنا كذلك نفعل بالمجرمين إنهم كانوا إذا قيل لهم لا إله إلا هو يستكبرون.
Ahsant. Very good, Muhammad. Thank you. And Sister Sarah.
Can you hear me?
Yes.
بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم ويقولون أئنا لتاركو آلهتنا لشاعر مجنون بل جاء بالحق وصدق المرسلين.
Thank you, Sister Sarah. Did you mean to go on mute?
Yeah.
Oh, okay. Thank you so much for your recitation. That was very good. And Sister Masuma, please go ahead.
أعوذ بالله من الشيطان الرجيم إنكم لذائق العذاب الأليم ما تجزون إلا ما كنتم تعملون إلا عباد الله المخلصين أولئك لهم رزق معلوم فواكه وهم مكرمون في جنات النعيم على سرر متقابلين.
Ahsant. Very good. Thank you. And Mortaza, please go ahead.
بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم يطاف عليهم بكأس من معين بيضاء ألذات للشاربين
ينزفون.
ينزفون وعندهم قاصرات الطرف عين كأنهن بيض مكنون فأقبل بعضهم على بعض يتساءلون قال قائل منهم إني كان لي قرين.
Ahsant. Very good, Mu'taza. Thank you. And Sister Sakina?
بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم يقول وإنك لمن المصدقين أإذا متنا وكنا ترابا وعظاما أإنا لمدينون قال هل أنتم مطلعون فاطلع فرآه في سواء الجحيم قال تالله إن كدت لتردين ولولا نعمة ربي لكنت من المحضرين.
Ahsant. Very good. Thank you. And Musa, please go ahead.
بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم أفما نحن بميتين إلا موتتنا الأولى وما نحن بمعذبين إن هذا لهو الفوز العظيم لمثل هذا فليعمل عاملون
فليعمل العاملون.
فليعمل العاملون
Good.
أذلك خير نزلا أم شجرة الزقوم إنا جعلناها فتنة للظالمين إنها شجرة تخرج في أصل الجحيم.
Ahsant. Thank you, Musa. So I think that's it for everybody who was going to recite today. Say, do you have any insights for us about these ayahs? Sayed, are you there?
Sorry, I was just away from the desk.
Sorry about that. Yeah, we just finished the recitations. If there is any insight you want to give about this surah or these ayahs.
Sure. Bismillahir Rahmanir Rahim. So one of the interesting things about Surah Safat is that it describes for us, some of the themes that are in other surahs, like the status of people in Qiyamah and in the hereafter, and that's something that we find in in a number of other surahs as well. But then it starts with kind of an abbreviated story of the prophets, and that's quite interesting. So let's move past some of the areas that we recited actually, which are themes that we've seen in other surahs, and come to the story of Prophet Nuh, which will begin in on page 448, verse 75. وَلَقَدْ نَادَانَا نُوحٌ فَلَنِعْمَ الْمُجِيبُونَ. So very quickly, Nuh called upon us, and we are very good at answering. We saved him and his family from the great calamity. So ayah 75 talks about Nuh, and then 79 says, Salamun ala Nuhin fil alameen. Praises Prophet Nuh, praise for him. And then verse 83 says, وَإِنَّ مِن شِيعَتِهِ لَإِبْرَاهِيمَ. Ibrahim is one of the Shia of Nuh. And of course, we call ourselves Shia. It's a Quranic term. Unlike any of the other schools of thought within Islam, they're not Quranic. like Sunni or Salafi but Shia is a Quranic term, and it comes from this verse and other verses. Ibrahim is a Shia of Nuh. What does it mean to be a Shia? It means to be a loyal follower. You're on the party of Nuh because you follow his principles. And we are the Shia of Ahlul Bayt because we are their partisans and their followers as well. So then the Quran talks about Prophet Ibrahim, and later on in that same page, فَبَشَّرْنَاهُ بِغُلَامٍ حَلِيمٍ. This is verse 101, which talks about Prophet Ismail. And then we have in verse 120, Salamun ala Musa wa Harun. Praise be to, or God's greetings be to Musa and Harun. And then you have mention of Surah Prophet Ilyas in verse 123, and so on. So it's a very interesting surah in that it kind of goes through a number of different prophets, one after another. And then there's mention of Prophet Yunus and his story in brief as well. So I think we have to end now, but if you read ahead in Surah Al-Safat, you'll get a quick introduction to the different prophets. Right. Thank you, Brother Iman, for the lesson on Huruf al-Halqiyya and their pronunciation. Assalamu alaikum.
Wa alaikum assalam.
Waalaikumsalam.